this is McBurney, and welcome back to another episode of Seduce Me! Now we get to see all the boys in their demon glory, and it doesn't really look demonic, it just looks like they have horns on their head, and they're covered in paint, and their lower part of their body is all smoky and charred like they were burned to a crisp. And I don't know how appropriate this is, but you can't see bits, so it has to be okay. Okay? Okay. I couldn't believe what was happening. I was seeing the history of their lives before my eyes. They were nobles, and James was the heir to the kingdom the commander ruled. Even more so, he was going to be married to Diana. They sacrificed everything to leave and be together. They'd rather be free than remain in their noble roles. I started to feel a little jealous. They were able to leave while I was still expected to be what my father wanted me to be. How they were able to leave was uncertain still, but I knew I would learn in time. I closed my eyes and mentally asked Desmeon to end the vision. As soon as I asked, the world around me slowly vanished, and I was brought back to the bedroom where I sat with my head nestled in Damien's hands. My vision began to clear, letting me fully see the boys around me, all with concerned faces.
So, you now know exactly who we are.
Diana is the girl you were arranged to marry?
Not anymore. Once we left, the arrangement was broken. With no sons to marry off, her dad couldn't go through with the marriage deal.
If Diana is here for us, that means she's trying to save her kingdom from being attacked.
That's not true. She wants to rule our kingdom. Having one of us will give her the right to our kingdom as much as we'd have right over hers.
So she's a gold digger!
Well, with a kingdom like ours, what succubus wouldn't want to marry us for it?
It all made sense. She wanted them so she could finally take over an opposing kingdom. She knew that, despite her powers, she wouldn't be able to fight against their father, so she had to find another way in. That manipulative... Before I could continue, I felt my head suddenly get heavy and dizzy. I gripped my head, mewling under my breath. What the...
I took too much. I'm so sorry.
Oh, so he fed on me while he was showing me the vision. Okay.
Rest now. There's no need to do anything more today.
The boy suddenly rushed over and helped me lay back down as my vision was painted in white polka dots. I needed sleep badly. Instantly, I closed my eyes and let darkness consume me. After what seemed like hours, I finally woke up, slightly refreshed. My body knew that if I slept any longer, I'd be up all night, which was not part of the plan for the day. I rubbed my eyes and sat up, letting a soft groan escape my lips. In response, something beside my bed shuffled, causing me to look over. I didn't know what I was expecting. Beside me, sitting in a chair beside the bed, was Matthew, rousing himself up to see me awake. I smiled at him, seeing his slightly ruffled hair and tired eyes.
Oh, you're awake. How do you feel?
Matthew nodded before he looked down at the bed, taking my hands into his.
I'm really sorry. I'm really sorry.
What are you apologizing for? Matthew, it's not your fault.
No, please listen. I know that Diana and Malix have come after you because of us, so it's our fault that you're constantly in danger. If I hadn't convinced everyone to come to the human world, we would have never been attacked by Malix and hunted down and brought you in danger and...
I quickly reached over and put my finger on his lips, stopping him from going any further. I didn't want to hear anymore. Matthew, it's okay. I wanted to help you out. I offered to let you all stay. Nothing is your fault. I gently moved my hand and cupped Matthew's cheek, staring at him with concern. I didn't want him to hold guilt in his mind about this whole ordeal. Diana was desperate, and she'd hunt anyone for them. It wasn't his fault she was desperate enough to hunt them down. However, I grew curious. So, Matthew, you're a noble? Matthew looked at me and gave me a goofy smile.
I was once, but even if I had the title, I didn't really feel like a noble.
How come?
Well, I was the fourth noble son of the Demon Lord. With Eric and Sam ahead of me in case James couldn't fulfill his duties, there was no way I was getting the throne. So, I spent the majority of my time trying to make my mother happy. She was always unhappy.
Unhappy? How come?
Well, my dad was kind of... well, he married 4 different women. Each of us came from a different mother, and my mother was the last to be married and bear a son. The thing with succubi, though, is that they get jealous very easily.
So what happened?
The other wives got mad and scorned each other. It wasn't violent, but we never ate together for a reason. My mom, though, was too proud to have jealousy. She was the last woman the Demon Lord married, so she felt important. She felt that because he stopped marrying, she had the charm to stop his marrying spree.
Matthew let out a small laugh, a hint of depression lingering in the breath he let out.
But then the Demon Lord took another woman and she bore him a son outside of wedlock. Desmeon. The wives, including my mother, were furious. In response, the Demon Lord had a spell cast on them, turning them into spiritual orbs.
The heck? That's horrible. Matthew nodded, pressing his lips together in both agreement and sadness.
They could never have physical form, and they lost all their powers. They became slaves trapped in the Demon Lord's castle. However, they were kept alive to make sure their sons grew up to be competent demons.
I'm sorry. Matthew gently shrugged, letting a small nostalgic smile grace his lips.
She taught me how to be a demon, though. Not just a demon, a grown, adult demon. I read books, I learned strategy, everything that James was doing under the Demon Lord's watch. Only, I trained with just my mother. She wanted me to surprise the Demon Lord one last time, and maybe take the throne away from James.
Matthew then reached into his pocket and took out a small mirror.
Here, I'll show you.
Matthew handed it to me and sent a wave of blue mist into it. It began to glow until it enveloped the room in a bright light. When the light had subsided, I was back in the main hall of the demon castle. I looked around, feeling unable to move, but I could practically see everything as clear as I had before. However, my focus gathered on Matthew, sitting on the throne as if it was his, and reading a book. For some reason, Matthew reminded me of James at that moment. He seemed engrossed in his reading each word and absorbing each meaning. Him on the throne surprisingly fit him. There was something about him.
This is an easy read.
A saddened cry, however, echoed through the hall, forcing Matthew to stop, close the book, and stand from the throne.
Mother?
I looked around, confused at the cry and where it was coming from. It seemed to just echo through the room without any source of direction. Matthew sighed and placed the book on the armrest of the throne before he cupped his hands together.
Fly and comfort her, will you?
As Matthew opened his hands, a small bird with blue and purple feathers perked up from the hiding place. Matthew smiled before releasing it into the air. I watched as it flew off and glided through an open archway. The sound of its flapping wings faded into the air as it grew farther into the castle.
Come on.
I could tell that Matthew was holding his breath. He must have cared very deeply for his mother. It was incredibly sweet. At last, the sound of the crying stopped, making Matthew release a happy sigh.
There we go.
Matthew cracked his knuckles in approval and reached for his book. However, before he could even graze the cover with his fingers, the sound of pattering entered the room.
You, what son? Away from the throne!
Away from the throne!
All right.
God, the guy is still really annoying.
What am I going to do with you? You're a child.
And you're a servant. Matthew glared at the servant as the servant quickly brushed the throne off like there was dust all over it.
The next time I see you on the throne, I will inform the Demon Lord. Understand?
God, this guy is really annoying. Grr, I just want to punch him.
Yes.
Punch him! The demon servant continued to brush over the throne before knocking the book from the armrest. Matthew froze as the servant quickly patted over and picked it up.
What is this? A book? Why do you have it?
I was reading.
You read? You don't need to read. You're never going to need knowledge for anything, fourth son.
I saw Matthew's eye twitch, making me grimace. This servant sure had a mouth. It was annoying at the very least.
I'll just take this book and bring it to the heir himself to read. He's reading faster than the library can provide.
But that's...
Raestro's next area of study.
The servant began to walk away, ignoring Matthew's glare of anger. The servant stopped, however, to look to Matthew to pound one more nail into the wound.
Let's face it, kid. You have the smallest horns, the smallest frame, and the least amount of power among the noble sons. You'll never be like them, so just stop trying. Use your incubus powers on others who have a child fetish or something.
Ooh, that's gross, man, gross. The demon looked at Matthew up and down before rushing off wherever he came from. As the servant disappeared, Matthew summoned a knife and chucked it in the direction where the servant left. The knife embedded itself into the hard stone beside the door into the hall.
I hate that guy. Disgusting pig fawn.
Matthew walked over and sat on the foot of the throne, clearly aggravated. Eventually, Matthew stopped the magic, lowering the mirror and holding it in his hands before looking to me.
I had hoped to show you my mother, but I guess the mirror wanted to show you something else. Sorry.
That servant is terrible.
Tell me about it. He served the demon lord almost his whole life. Ugly pig fawn.
Matthew laughed while I laughed at the insult. It was good to see Matthew in good spirits despite what was shown and what was happening around us. Still, it was sad to see that he was considered the child of the noble sons. He could read books of knowledge that his brother hadn't read, and he seemed caring. It was insulting to see someone tear him down like that. Matthew smiled at me before pocketing the mirror.
Whatever. Thankfully we got out of there, so I could be with my brothers like a normal family. No hierarchies, no politics, no pig funds, nothing.
I smiled. It was good that he saw the positive side. However, his face slowly turned to a sad one before he looked down at the bed. Matthew?
You've done a lot for me and my brothers. Sheltering us, letting us continue to live here. It may not seem like much, but for us it's everything. But I don't want you to get hurt because of us.
I watched in speechless silence as Matthew lifted his head, his eyes full of almost hopelessness.
That's why I'm sorry.
Matthew lowered his head in shame. I couldn't help but feel my heart squeeze within my chest at the sight. He truly cared. Matthew let out a small sigh before looking to me with a new smile. He hid his sadness well, but I could tell he was still upset about the whole ordeal.
All right. You need to sleep and I need to make dinner. I'll wake you up when dinner is done.
Matthew gently pressed me back down onto the bed, resolved in what had happened. And with that, he stood up and left the room, leaving me to rest as per his request. I smiled to myself before relaxing into the mattress. Alright, and I'm going to wrap it up here. Please be sure to leave a comment in the video below. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. That way you keep updated with any new videos of this series and others that I'm currently working on. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next episode, I'll catch y'all later. Bye!